Bam, coming at you hot from a webinar I just came off of. So we went from one to another, and now I get to kick this episode of Surviving Sales off. What's happening, everybody? Thanks for coming out. We appreciate you. I always give everybody a moment to come in. We know that you're coming off of calls. We know that you're coming off of meetings. It takes a minute to sort of center yourself and get ready for a piece of content like this. So find your chi, get comfortable, sit down. We got a lot of wisdom to share with you today. Joe, welcome to the show, my friend.
I can't tell you how fun it's going to be here, man. It's just, every time I get together with you, just when it's on a Zoom call, it's always a good time.
It is a good time. Hey, I'm all about a good time, This job, I say it all the time, this job is supposed to be fun. People forget that part, right? All right, so let me give you a little background here. Joe has 30 plus years of experience in the medical sales field. That's a very specific field. So he's got a lot of expertise to share with us. And right now he's with CSAT Solutions. That's CSAT Solutions. Joe, tell everybody what you sell currently.
Well, right now, for my career, I've been selling devices. At the moment, though, I work for the largest computer repair manufacturer in the world, but I took a division and said, we're going to take that same concept of repairing computers, commodities really, and then take it to the medical business. So we go after big OEM clients that are medical device manufacturers and show them how to save money, get better repair, and do it a lot quicker.
Well, we're going to learn a lot from you about how the industry has changed since you began, because when you and I connected to prep for this, we talked about your early days and the things that have changed since between now and then. And it was really an interesting conversation. So welcome to the show. Let's get into it. What are some nuances to selling in the medical device space that might be different than any other vertical in the world?
I think if you look at the medical profession as a whole, it's slow. It moves slowly. It moves a lot on data. If you just look at the recent things with COVID, I mean, there's still this big disparity between getting vaccinated and not getting vaccinated, and they're looking at data on both sides. The medical profession does not move quickly. It moves very slowly. As a matter of fact, if you look at the stuff we repair today, compare it to like brand new computers, it's old, 10 years old, 15 years old technology compared to what we're doing. So it moves slowly. So you got to be prepared for that.
It does kind of seem like an industry that would be resistant to change. And yet we talk all the time about medical advancements and how fast they happen. How does this paradox exist?
Well, I think you're going to have the transition is already happening in healthcare. Slow, but it's happening. Yeah. You're going to see big players like Apple, Google get into healthcare space big time, and they're going to move these old behemoths out the way.
Yeah, there's some early signs of that, right? I remember when Apple had the health monitors app that hit, and people started to look at how many steps they took every day. They started to look at their heart rate, their average heart rate. And then the watch came out, and they started to have all the apps there that you could put on the watch, and it would tell you your blood pressure throughout the day and stuff like that. Pretty amazing things, I think there's some early signs that you're right. These big tech companies are going to start sticking their nose into the healthcare and the medical industry, and things are going to change. Something that you said to me on the prep call that didn't shock me. I guess I kind of knew this, but I wasn't it didn't dawn on me that it's probably 100% true all the time. But the space that you sell into is a very heavy gatekeeper space. And we know in SaaS, gatekeepers are a constant conversation, and there's a language that people use. Tell me about gatekeepers in the medical world.
Well, so let's say we're going just to a medical office. And we'll call this no COVID, pre-COVID. We're not even going to put COVID in the mix because that made things a lot more difficult. Let's say you're walking into a doctor's office. You immediately have a receptionist. The doctor's in the back. You're not getting to him.
No direct access.
No direct access. No phone number. No email address. Nothing. You got nothing.
Yeah.
So you got to get past the gatekeeper either with a phone call initially, or you're going to do it face to face. Until you build a relationship up where they know you. And I used to have, it was almost like a milk route. I knew these people on and on. You were walking in the door all the time. They knew you could walk right back. But if you're just starting out, not so easy. Certainly the bigger company makes it bigger. You're walking in front of one of the big pharma companies, that makes your life a lot easier. But if you're a mid-tier, second-tier company, not so easy anymore.
I love that idea of a milkman route because the consistency, right? The consistency makes a lot of sense. I think so I had kind of a milkman route when I was starting out in SaaS because the phone is where I default, right? Like I'm a phone person. I like the phone. It's easy for me. It's not easy for everybody, but it's easy for me. So I would default to the phone early on, and I had a dialer, and that dialer would cycle through numbers. And every time my recall would kick in, and it was the same numbers over and over, very similar to a milk route, right? Because you're hitting the same doors over and over constantly. And it was the same number. I feel like it was the same flow. Like I see this name, I see this number, I see this title every day, and I know who I'm calling. So it got to a point where I could get somebody on the phone and I would see the number and then I would just walk away. And if they answered, I would know who it was, what company they were, because you dial that number so many times.
It's the same thing. And like for instance, I lived in New Orleans at the time, so I had a fairly big territory. I was covering, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and it was literally you go from one city to the next, do your thing that day, next city, and go around. And they would do it on, in this particular company would do it on 6-week cycles. So
what's the go-to for you as you move in and out of these offices and you're seeing these gatekeepers? What's the best approach that you found works for them?
Get a phone. Go phone first.
Yeah.
Go phone first. Make sure you can even get in there. I usually drop a couple of value propositions on the phone, see if I can even get past the gatekeeper.
Right.
Sometimes get to a nursing person, or maybe that really what I want to get to at least is the administrator for the practice.
There you
Everyone's
go.
one, right?
So it's not necessarily the doctor every time, because it's the administrator that's pulling the financial strings, the controller, right? There's always somebody back there, some Wizard of Oz pulling all the strings. Can you help me was the one that I think is very impactful for a lot of folks with gatekeepers. So I have 2 points that I make about gatekeepers. The first one is one that came from Morgan J, and it's the Lost in Disney World, right? Can you help me? That one works well, I think.
My favorite go-to, man.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah. Can you help me? Is good. And I think the other one that I do is I like to get their name early. I don't like them to feel like I'm looking at them as some obstacle that I have to get past. I'll say something like, "What's your name?" And they'll say, "My name is John." And I'll say, "Hey, John, do you work for Dr. Gaddis?" Right? "Yeah, I've worked for him for a couple of years." "Oh, you like it?" Right? Like there's a conversation there. That's a human being. So I always try to tell salespeople, like, don't just push past them like they're not there. Like they're probably going to hit you with that hard no next time you come in if you make that move. So you want to acknowledge their existence, So 30 years in the industry, you've seen it grow and change multiple times. What is the best sales training experience you've ever had? I love this story. The one you told me on the job.
The best sales training experience I have was not a sales training experience, although it was at the same time. So I'm working with I had one intermediate job between. I really got locked onto a company called Behringer Mannheim Diagnostics, which is now Roche, big company, right? And I'm with the area manager who's training me. He's a big dog in the company, and we're in San Antonio, and I was selling laboratory products. So I'd go, we were selling all kind of reagents and test kits and stuff for the laboratory. And I had trained for 6 weeks, literally product knowledge, training only, nothing else, 6 weeks. And here we are on our first call. And I'm sitting there, and it's like my mind was gone. I didn't remember anything. And I am sitting there, and I'm literally like the sweat starting to come down. I mean, it's like, and I really sweat. So it's like, it's noticeable, right? I mean, it's like, I am really, and the lab guy, he was cool. Like he was trying to walk me through it a little bit.
Yeah.
But Rod Kovar, he didn't say a damn thing, nothing, zero. I'm like, really, like, come on, dude, help me out, man. I'm really, you can see I'm struggling here, man.
He let you drown.
He let me drown.
What happened after?
Yeah. So then we walk out to the car because he was real big on pre-planning, and then, obviously you have the call and then post-planning. So he sits in the car.
Did you feel like you let him down? Did you feel like you had failed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 6 weeks, and I was with him most of those 6 weeks. I mean, it's like you get, you develop a relationship.
What a hit, man. What a hit.
And you go, I sat in the car. I mean, I knew, and I deserved it, right? I just blanked.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what happened? He walks me through it and says, try this, do this next time. That is the education that's better than any sales training you'll ever get. And I'm a big fan of JV Sales. I'm on the platform. I love it, but it's nothing like making a call.
It's trial by fire, right? Like you got to get in there and do the work, and that's where you learn. We say you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's a part of it that I think we have to accept. And man, that guy let you drown, but you got real uncomfortable real fast. I bet you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in no circumstances in a sales cycle have you ever felt that level of discomfort again, right?
This is no lie, James. I am sitting here 30 plus years later, running that through my mind, and I can feel exactly the way I felt when I sat in that chair.
Yeah, it's a marker.
That's how real it is, right?
Yeah,
that's how real it is. I'll never forget that moment, and I never want to relive it again.
So there's probably a few sellers in here that are, we probably have a mixed bag. I would say we have a few that are probably veteran sellers, and then we probably have a few people that are going to watch this that are brand new sellers. This will all be uploaded to YouTube. So in your 30 years of experience plus, what's the best sales advice you've ever gotten?
I think the best thing I ever got really was keep learning. Just keep learning, keep doing. Look, I mean, that's why I reached out to you. I'm 61 years old. I'm trying to learn new techniques, new things to get in front of clients, get more sales, generate more leads. It never stops. I mean, I remember back in the day, I would know where every phone was that was at the right, payphone was at the right height, so you could pull your car up to it, so you didn't have to get out. So you could just drive up and make a phone call. Yeah. That I remember those days. So it's just the sheer quickness in technology today to move quicker and do things different is a big deal.
Always be learning. That's a 30-year sales veteran telling you that he is able to humble himself to go learn from others. I think that is a huge challenge for veteran sellers out there. When we think of sales advice, we often think of silver bullets. And the fact is that as things changed, you had no choice but to build a network of people, go find resources, invest in yourself. And one of the things that you landed on was video. Now, in SaaS, we know that video is a super powerful tool, but in other industries, we find people to be pretty resistant. If you're selling commodities, if you're selling some sort of government thing, video is sort of like on the edge of that's too far. How has video impacted you in the medical space specifically?
Yeah, dude, I can't tell you what a big deal. You get videos from me on LinkedIn.
I do all the time.
I will sit in front of this computer screen. If somebody goes, or it says, hey, want to connect, I'll send them a video like, hey, man, thanks for wanting to connect. And this just happened yesterday with a doctor. He goes, I've never seen anybody do this before. Yeah. Thanks for the extra effort. Because people don't do it. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons about this too is that these, just like the whole industry is so tight, meaning it's slow to move, these big companies are slow to move too. Yeah. So their marketing is, they don't want the sales guys doing anything outside of the prescribed thing. And the prescribed thing is not using video. And you don't see it at all.
What I think is most interesting about that is that you don't expect a physician to come back to you positively. I would not expect a physician. I would expect someone in software to come back to me and be like, great video, right? Because they're in software, they're in technology, like they understand the tech aspect. But a doctor, I would think would be like, oh, that's a video I didn't ask for. I'm not going to click on that. But they actually watch them and appreciate them. So if you're out there and you sell into the medical space, adopt a Vidyard. It's a free Chrome tool. Go ahead, put it out there and see if your target audience will respond favorably to your video approach. What's a good line of conversation for your videos? If you were going to reach out to my doctor, Dr. Gaddis here in East Tennessee, shout out to Dr. G. If you were going to send a video to him, what would you say in that video?
Well, first of all, I would probably pull up, if he does have a LinkedIn page, I'd use his LinkedIn page as the background. I would also, or use his website, something with his photograph in it, if it's there. Pull up a video, do it. I call it a bobblehead. It's never, it's bobblehead video. It's my 61-year-old ugly face sitting there, and hit record, give them value propositions. This is the reason I'm calling you. It's not just a random video. There's a reason I'm calling you. I have a product that can help your patients do this, this, and this, and save you money, but whatever it is, do that. Keep it short. Say thanks. It doesn't, keep it way under 2 minutes.
Way under, right? I'm like 47. I'm like 47 seconds. I feel like that. If you
that's a good one
in under a minute, money, dude.
money. I mean, you might use it too, because there's so much. I'll call it validation, if you will, about studies. You could pull that study up, right? You could connect it. You could link that study in your video and go, hey, this is the study I'm talking about where patients did this, this, and this. That's why I contacted you. What do you think about that? I always close with a question like, hey, what do you think? Just let me know where you want to go from here. Something like that at the end to give them something to bite on to get back with you. But please use video. You made it. I had an idea when you said something. You said, I don't think a doctor would do that.
No,
because you know why? We think they're not human. They're not. They're different. They're more educated than me. They're human beings. They have the same trigger points everybody else does.
Yeah. Do you think all salespeople kind of don't view their prospects as humans?
I think some don't. I know that.
Some don't. Yeah, I think
I really do. It's just like they're just transactions. They're just people in the way of getting money.
If somebody told you in 1995 that one day we would all be looking at each other on a Zoom screen, and when you were driving around office to office with your pager, would you have said for sure we're definitely going to move to that?
I couldn't have dreamed it was like this. I mean, I'm sitting in a converted bedroom talking to you. You're in Tennessee. I'm in Houston. It's amazing. I mean, I've been on, not that the distance doesn't really matter, but I've been on podcasts with guys in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy.
We take it for granted, right?
Yeah. I've done demos to China. It's crazy. It's just, you can't understand the contrast. This is the advantage of being older. You can't understand the contrast until you live through it. That's the advantage for me, is I know what it was like not to have GPS and to have maps. At 11 o'clock at night, you're trying to fumble through to drive to the next place tomorrow. And just maps alone would have saved me at least 3 years.
Tons of time, right? You'd have like added on years to your life. What's a good objection that you get a lot of the time that took you a while to get good at overcoming?
I think the biggest objection in medical devices, as a rule, it's always the data objection, right?
Yeah.
And I try to not always do, not every time you're going to have the right data, but you may have data that's close or from a similar study, not just on your product. But I always try to take it away in the fact that I understand you need data, doctor, but you also went to school for 12 freaking years to study science. So you're also a scientist. So let's just walk through the science a minute and then tell me what you think about it, just from a purely scientific perspective, irrespective of data. So, I
the
think
biggest issue that you have is that you have to prove it to these people from the science,
right,
with the scientific format, right? With the scientific method, you have to provide that data. And that's hard for you to push back on. It took you a while to get good at it. What happened when you dialed in the data?
Well, it's like any other objection you come to, right? You're going to have whatever you sell, and you're going to have 10, 12 major. That's it. No more than that. You're not going to have 50 objections, right? It gives you a level of confidence that when you get hit with that, you got a solution. Potential solution doesn't always work.
Sure. I think if you're presenting data, something happens to our confidence levels. They raise quite a bit. If you have a data point, you're confident in what you're saying because, well, one of the data points that we throw out there, 67% of buyers agree and admit that they go and look at your LinkedIn profile before they decide to give you time as a seller. That if that's true, If 67% of them do, then you would be able to sell to sellers. You should have a LinkedIn profile. Why?
Absolutely.
Because 67% of the people you sell to are going to go look for you there. You should be there, right? Like that's 100%.
Absolutely.
So when you have that kind of data, I feel like we earn a little bit more credibility, and that is the hardest thing we earn. How hard is it for you to earn credibility with physicians and hospitals?
It's hard. I mean, unless you've done it, I've been fortunate. I have connections, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
If you're new and struggling, it's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
But I would tell you, if you're doing that, to try to get much more personal with people, you talked about that earlier. Actually, I think that's a really good point, is that don't just see them as people in white coats. They are human beings. Treat them like you would any other human being. And I'll tell you, my go-to thing when I finish a call, I can send an email, I can send you a text, but if I send you a handwritten note, I'm telling you, it's still
old school,
old school, baby.
Yeah,
old school. Can't.
But it's meaningful because it never happens anymore. It's a standout move. I get a lot of gifts. People send me gifts all the time, and I like gifts, but I like notes.
Send me a gift, Joe.
I like, well, I won't say what, I don't have to say it, but so let's talk about events for a minute, because you and I did something recently. I've talked a lot about events. Everybody that knows me knows I've traveled the globe many a time just for sales events. So my question is, I told you that you should take selfies with people at events, and you guys did it. You guys did it. What happened when you did it?
It was so cool, man. So, by the way, if anybody's doing trade shows, you need to hit this guy up, because he is the trade show master. So I asked James for his top 3 things, and he gave me a couple of them. And I said, look, I'm going to have the brain trust of the company on. Can you do it? He spent 40 minutes with these people, telling them about how to do it. And I said, okay, you just got some free education, and we're going to freaking use it. Yeah. So we had the sales guys. So we were giving away T-shirts, and it was a fairly crowded show. And I said, start taking selfies, and then boom, take the selfie with the client and the T-shirt, group 4 or 5 of those images together with, whatever software package you want to use. Post it on LinkedIn with the hashtag for the show.
Yeah.
We were the only people doing it.
Yeah. And the people from the show came to ask you for more, right?
And gave us free airtime on on their little podcast they were doing for the show. Free airtime for that. That was a charge.
Yeah. Events are back in a big way. And if you're not changing your approach, I think people are going to get left behind. So that was the approach that I suggested you do. And I'm so glad it worked the way it did. Getting the airtime, like literally being like that magnet in the room where everybody's like, what's happening over at that booth? Right? Like that's
it was. It was that kind of thing. But we got to give them the rest of the story, because that's part of it. The other part is when you take that selfie, you go, hey, can I have your cell phone number?
I'll send it to
you. I'll send it to you right now. You put it all in, and you save the image with the selfie as the contact information for that particular person. So now when they call and you don't know who they are, you go, oh yeah, man, I remember meeting you at the trade show.
Yep. It's so much better than having to like frantically search for their phone number in your CRM to figure out who just called you back. Like, I hate that feeling. And they always feel it on the other side of the phone. Like, that's sad. This person doesn't know why they called me. Like, that's sad, right? They hang up. They're not interested anymore. All right. So that's good. I love that you guys use my tactic there. It's such a useful thing. It sparked so many conversations for me in the past. All right. So here's my question. Describe or tell me what your first year as a seller in the medical space was like.
Oh man.
Green.
It was tough, man. It was tough. People see me sometimes and they think, oh, he's a very outgoing guy. I'm really not that way. I'm pretty tired. You may not be. You're really. I mean,
I'm very introverted, super quiet. Are you really? I never say anything.
Oh, sure.
Get out of here.
But, I'd rather read a book and sit in the corner and jot some notes down. That's not my general style. But anyway, to get back to your question, so I'm kind of introverted guy, and now I'm going in the doctor's office back in the 80s, and you have back in the day they called it a detail man. Mm-hmm. So you would sit in front of the doctor. You would have 3 products you're going to talk about that day primary, secondary, and tertiary, and you would literally sit in front of the doctor, and they would wait for you to talk because they knew it was coming.
Awkward.
Today, doctor, I'm here to talk to you about bing, 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 bing. 5 minutes. I'll leave some samples. I'm out the door. There was no, hey, are your patients using this stuff? How do they like it? What can we do different? It was not. It was just straight. It was like taking a video right now and sending a video.
Yeah.
Here today talking about blah, blah, blah. It was the same. It was just rote memorization. And you did that on a cycle. Every 6 weeks, they come up with 3 new products and you talk about that thing.
Wow.
It was, in a way, it was probably good for me because I didn't have to talk to people and ask them questions, right? But at the same time, I mean, still even that, sitting in front of a person and doing that. And then when you had your boss with you, it was like saying things like, oh, man. So it was tough. I did okay. I mean, I didn't fall off the face of the earth. I was kind of,
I mean, you've been in it for 30 years, so it couldn't have gone that bad, I mean, clearly you found your roots. And speaking of questions, we have a good question. Anonymous attendee, thank you for asking this. What are some objections that you see between SaaS and medical sales? So do you get the standard objections that we get? We get like, not interested, take me off your list, unsubscribe, that kind of thing. Do you get a lot of that too?
All that, yeah.
Okay. How do you overcome it?
The unsubscribe part, kind of hard to get over that one.
GDPR, I mean, with everything that's happening now, you got to be compliant. That's for sure.
Right. So what were the other objections?
Yeah, not the quick not interested is probably the most. It's probably the most. I have 2 that are probably the most high in SaaS. Not interested too soon means you don't really care about this call. You don't even know why you're not interested. That's a
and that's exactly how I would approach that. Like, look, did I just catch you at a time? I mean, because if you're not interested, you're not interested.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious. My kind of go-to is, what made you say that?
Yeah.
And
what makes you say you're not interested?
Yeah, I understand you're not interested. I was curious why that is. One of the reasons I say that is because I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to find more clients and connect with those clients.
I turn it around. I throw it the other way. So I have an upward inflection in this moment where I go, oh, you know why I'm calling?
I like that one.
Yeah, because they don't. Oh, no, I'm not interested. Oh, you know why I'm calling? No.
No.
All right. Well, that's okay.
And that's a good one. About that. If you're going to catch somebody like that, I mean, it's going to be tough. Let's face it. It's just going to be a tough day, but you're giving yourself a chance to overcome it.
Yeah. It's okay to let somebody go that doesn't want to talk to you. It's not okay to not at least let them know that you're going to follow up and call them back again. Right. I think we're okay saying that. Joe, if you had a piece of advice in your 30 years of sales experience for everybody, what would that advice be before we let you go?
Be very simple. Just sales. Well, first of all, I think selling is the greatest profession in the world. I really mean that. Not because I've done it for years.
A little biased.
But I don't think anyone, as I look at a career, someone can come out without an education, no high school, no college, and have a great career and a life. If you train. Yeah. That's the second part of it. It never ends. It just
take your time and learn all you can, right? I mean, it takes time, it takes effort. It's supposed to be a journey.
I agree. And that the other piece of it is you can't stop learning. You just can't stop. Yeah. It's not going to end. And it's one of the reasons I connect with guys like you and younger, because you're thinking about different things that, quite frankly, the guys I run around with aren't thinking about.
I appreciate that, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you for coming, spending some time with us, sharing your knowledge. It really does mean a lot to me. This is going to air on YouTube, y'all. So make sure that you go and you follow the Sell Better YouTube channel. Sell Better by JB Sales is what you're looking for. And reach out to Joe, connect with him, learn from him. This guy's a gem. He's got a lot of information, a lot of experience. You could learn a lot from a conversation with this man. Joe, thank you for your time, my friend. We will connect again soon.
As always, see you, man.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Surviving Sales.